Hello, guys. Wanted to sit down and talk about my feelings of the Red Bull ladder qualifier. There will be a very, very, very tiny portion of this focused on the format of the last chance qualifier. But yeah, that hasn't actually started yet. I'm recording this a day or two after the ladder qualifier concluded. On screen here was the NBL Winchester game, which you probably caught. If you didn't, check the video out. Crazy ending to the ladder qualifier, where Winchester was able to force a best-of-5 series to eventually qualify for this LAN, okay? But yeah, I'm going to go through a couple different things here and just kind of podcast it for a second. First thing I wanted to start with was the time frame. I don't have the exact amount of time memorized. I think it was something like 2.5 weeks. If you remember for the last one, guys, it was like months. They started the ladder months in advance, which I felt was a big mistake because no one was playing right away. Like, there was no hype. Everything was super drawn out. Like, technically you could play, but it wasn't like this time where it was like, oh crap, things are serious. You better be on the grind. And they really improved that this time. I felt like the time frame was pretty much perfect. There's an argument to maybe make it a little bit shorter, but I actually liked it. You had some players who were able to be a little bit more selective, that you clearly didn't have to play 8 hours a day, which isn't conceivable for everybody. Not everyone's full-time AoE. But then you also had the people who did play like literally every second of every day, it felt like. And they also had their chances and opportunities. So time frame was freaking awesome for this. The next thing I wanted to touch on was the maps. I really like the majority of the maps. I think that the maps were really nice. I think it was initially 8 brand new maps. I felt it was a really nice mix. You had more closed maps. You had 1 or 2 maps which incorporated some hybrid. Granted, it's Empire Wars, so water isn't really as viable as in other formats. But I thought the maps in general were really good. However, the fact that they had to remove 3 maps, 3 brand new maps that people got excited about, they had to remove them because of bugs that were screwing over players. Villagers weren't spawning. Certain things weren't spawning. Was bad and really regrettable. And I'm sure everyone involved knows that. But, like, that kind of sucks. Like, this is something that they were well aware of well in advance. So there was a statement from Crazini that was like, we tried to do something, but we couldn't push out a patch in time. Ideally, that gets planned better, right? Ideally, you get everything sorted. Now, I'm not a map scripter. Maybe it's really difficult to predict these things, but that was frustrating for me to see. Players shouldn't have to honor code, delete 10 villagers off of wood lines, or even 1 or 2 vills. People did, but it just felt a little off there. So I would have liked to see that be improved. I'm not saying anything anyone doesn't know, but like, that has to be better, man. That just has to be better. Like, this is a really big event with things on the line. That needs to be better next time, if there is a next time. On that topic, there were some great maps. The balancing on some of these maps made it feel like things were not tested as much as they should have been. So I'm not talking about the bugs where, like, a villager doesn't spawn or something. That's like rare. Maybe that's hard to test for. But like Thames, for example, amazing map concept. It's one of my favorite maps that's been brought into the game. I think it's perfect for Empire Wars. The differences in wood on either side was crazy, and like really consistently as well. We're not talking like 10% or 20% of the time. I'd argue 30 to 40%, maybe 50% of gens had an imbalance there. And so it just made me think. See, like, I was invited to test these maps, for example. I didn't have time or anything, but I was just thinking, like, do they have someone at the helm looking for those types of things, right? Like, I would like to think that would be an immediate thought for me, because we're working on Titans League maps right now. And like, we look through various things that we're really particular. Super easy to say when it's not you, but that sucked. And the boars on Hengehold, really, really RNG based. That map is always going to be like kind of full wall playing towards crossbows. And you got the boars spawning on one side of the henge in the middle. players would just get unlucky, right? Like you both go to the middle, you both do the same thing, and then one person gets 3 boars. That could have been better too. Obviously, they ended up removing that map because of bugs and stuff, but like it could have been better. So I'm trying to show both sides. Again, there's a lot of positives, but there's definitely a lot of what ifs in regards to the balance of the maps as well, in my opinion. So that was a little disappointing. But overall, still really nice. The next big thing is the Civ thing. And you know, I need to apologize to people watching who may have asked why mirror, why this, why that. It just gets really repetitive over, you know, if I'm live every day, or most days, and you receive any question continuously, it can get kind of frustrating. I think, I don't know, I felt like I needed to be slightly better at answering some of those questions because it's a good question to ask. I mean, as I explained during the streams, I feel like mirror is just the safest way for a player to try and qualify for an event like this with how the ladder works. But at the same time, what was really painful was the Korean mirrors, because people quickly found out that the fire lancers for Koreans are absolutely busted. I mean, Koreans in general were always going to be very good for Empire Wars, but you know, this new fire lancer unit was just way too tanky, way too cheap. So, yeah, that was that. Imagine if that wasn't the case, right? Like, imagine if it wasn't a fire lancer and tower spam. It was kind of a weird mix of reasons. You had Koreans being strong, but you also had some maps that incorporate a lot of stone, and like the one map you couldn't farm a lot, so obviously a wood and gold unit's going to be good. I think the majority of people listening, and you know, leave a comment on this. I want to hear your thoughts. Of course, that's the point of this. I think people could have done without Koreans. You know, people would have been happier with another mirror matchup. Now, there have been a lot of suggestions on like, you know, why don't they implement a ban or a draft system, something like that. But the thing is, guys, the game isn't built for that, right? Like, the game is not built for that. And like, I don't want to spiral out of control too far here, but the devs haven't even fixed it so you can make a party system in the game if you're playing team games. Sorry, you can make a party, but when the game ends, you're not still in the party, right? Which used to happen. Like, when the game was first released, they had that. Problem was you couldn't leave your party, and then they were like, so I guess it was broken, and they said they were going to fix it, and then never came back, which kind of tells me they built it wrong, and they can't fix it. So the point I'm trying to make here is like, we're working with what we can. We're working with what we've got. Would we love to see the devs have, like, I would love to see a tournament ladder, have the secondary ladder be one that incorporates picks and bans. But like, we're pretty far removed from that, I would say, because, you know, they would have to add all this dev work and functionality for it, which again, we deserve. But is it, my point is, it's not realistic. Like, it's not realistic to happen here, clearly, because there's all these other things I'd like to see. So you're going to end up with mirror in those scenarios. I think that the challenge then is have it be a mirror that's actually exciting. and that's subjective, but also then you have to have balance be like literally perfect. Remember, last time this happened, guys, we had like Saracen mirror, we had Byzantine mirror. I think there's always going to be, with so many civs, there's always going to be like 1 or 2 civs that end up being strong. But then it was like, it wasn't because like a really OP annoying unit like the Fire Lancer. It wasn't, this felt different because it's like a new DLC unit or a new addition to the game that felt like it wasn't balanced. But it's tough to balance Empire Wars and RM at the same time when Empire Wars is never the focus. It would have been tough for the devs to see this coming, I think. So yeah, that kind of sucked, and maybe that could be improved. So overall, though, I mean, what are you going to do? I think it's going to be sweaty. I think you're going to see mirror. The final thing, the most important thing, I think, as we're watching this game here, this is the game that I wanted to bring up, is the way the ladder ends, right? So we had an instance here where Vinchester needed to win this game before the timer completed. And if he did that, he then would have tied Hart and forced a tiebreak, which ended up happening, right? However, the chances were very likely that he was still going to be in a game. And if he was in this game for 40 seconds longer, then his points wouldn't have counted. The points had to register and hit before an exact time. And I was just thinking about the potential scenarios here. And I think that the admins and the community got very fortunate that with the way these rules are structured, that it happened how it did. Because if, like, MBL ends up dying here, I'm almost finished, so we can move forward. Like, MBL's dying right now, right? MBL's dead, right? But the clock is ticking. Let's say right now the timer runs out. We've got a 25 villager lead for Vinchester. Castle on MBL's face. He's clearing up all of MBL's army, pretty much. Like, MBL is still within his rights to play on because he still has a big army, and who knows what can happen. But it's a 2K score lead. Like, this game is going to go to Vinchester. If this game doesn't count for Vinch, he doesn't make it to a LAN. Keep in mind, there's very few guarantees that he's going to necessarily make it regardless, right? Like, the last chance qualifier stacked with talent. I think that would be unfair. I think that would be unfair. And what would happen is some people agree with me that it's unfair and that this game was won. And you know what certain percentage of people would do? They would blame MBL. Think about the context, right? Like, MBL goes way back with Hart. They're friends. There'd be very easy to sling accusations and say, you know, that MBL was intentionally staying in this game to give Hart the win. Thankfully, it didn't end up happening. Now MBL said he played this game because he wanted to save Hart. He wanted to, like, beat Vinchester and save Hart. And then he said, like, he was thinking about how it could affect Hart. Like, look at the score. Look at the difference in position, right? He's dead. He was thinking about it, but then he, like, had the moral realization that was like, you know, I got to resign. I am dead. It would be really unfair, really bad of me to resign. But there was less than a minute to go. There's 50 seconds to go. We got lucky here. Vinchester got lucky. I just feel this is a good moment to learn and grow from this. Just like last time, right? Like with the timeline was forever. The timeline was 3 months, and they changed it. My feeling is we shouldn't have the players put into a position where fans can question them and make accusations. Like, it's putting it in my opinion, it creates a really, really messy, potentially controversial scenario to have it as it is here. Even if the players know all the rules ahead of time, know what they're signing up for, etc. What I would like to see next time, if there is a next time for a ladder qualifier, is that once that timer hits, if you're still in a game, you get to finish it and those points count. Now, does that create some other problems? Does that give someone a chance to get, like, one more game in past the timer and like start a game 30 seconds before the timer hits? Well, yeah, but what's one more game of 400? Like, one more game of 400. And then it's like, there's no question on the opponent trying to waste their time. There's no like weird scenario where MBL could be hated just because he played the game, right? So that's what I would like to see. Now, that might come with its other problems, but like here's me with my bedhead. I'm freaking out. I genuinely didn't think, and if you remember me on the stream here, I said that I felt it would be really unfair to Vinch if that didn't count because MBL played on for a long time there. So yeah, I might be missing something, right? I might be missing something. But I think that's the lower drama way to go. I think that's the fairer way. And there's still hype. There's still energy. It's like, oh, man, okay, MBL finished his game. We know where MBL is at. Oh, it'll be fun, right? He can't queue now. He went past the timer. But now so-and-so's in another game. Let's go watch that real quick. Watch that finish. I think it still maintains the hype. I still think it maintains fairness better. So that's something I'd like to see. I think we got very, 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 very lucky. Very lucky. Because this could have been bad. Final thing I wanted to talk about, and I might make another video on the qualifier afterwards. I mean, I definitely will because I want to tell you who's all qualified, what the main event will be, etc. Is how the last chance qualifier is formatted from a player perspective and how I feel this is a little bit problematic. And it's just one aspect. It's just one aspect. So And this is consistent last time as well. So basically, it's a very short last-minute qualifier. You have a check-in, and it's going to be over the weekend, right? The players are not seeded by their overall rankings on that bracket. They're put into pools, and like then there's a drawing. So there's a drawing process, basically like slight randomization, to mix it up a little bit, but still maintain like the player positions and fairness, which is fine. But here's the issue. I just remembered I have one more thing to talk about after this. Here's the issue. Players want to practice. This whole ladder qualifier was like Koreans v. Koreans, way, Inca. The ladder qualifier is not a tournament because you don't have a draft and you're playing different maps. So players need to practice. And if you want to practice, you need to know who you're playing against so you don't practice with them. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but like that could lead to some awkward scenarios where people get matched up against people they were practicing with, and then their best strategies get spoiled. Or so you get super lucky and all your practice partners end up being, in separate sides of the bracket. So you might have like 50% of the players get screwed by this. You might have 50% of the players get lucky by this. You see what I mean? So like, I know players and they're like this, I just played Koreans for 2 weeks. Now I'm trying to practice, but I don't feel like I should. Like they don't know what to do. So I think a lot of this comes back to the time frame. This is really condensed, really short. I feel like they should they really should remove this whole check-in system where you have to check in 2 hours before you play your first game on the Saturday. I think they should remove that. And then they should announce a couple days in advance who the players are playing against at least. And then the players show up and play their games. Because like this check-in thing, I think it works really well when you've got like 500 people playing. Because the idea of checking in is like pro players are going to show up like 99 times out of 100. There's no question there. So anyone with a good chance is going to show up regardless. The check-in is more like for like casuals. That's why that is implemented. So yeah, I would like to see ideally a week for people to be able to train, but at least like a couple days, which it isn't right now. So as of now, players are just going to be playing practice sets and crossing their fingers. Or you could just have the seeding process be public and then, people know in advance anyway. So that's one thing there. Final thing I wanted to mention, I wanted to keep this short. Final thing I wanted to mention was talking about Yo getting docked 100 points. Yo got docked 100 points because he streamed in the last 48 hours. And that was against the rules. You were allowed to stream, but you had to use a stream delay. And that was horrible for Yo because he dropped from like top 8, where there's more money and more qualifier advantages, out of the top 8. This also potentially has an effect on like other players too, because Yo is going to be treated as a worse player now, and like someone's going to have to face him and feel like, oh man, I got unlucky because Yo's got punished. I understand people not understanding like the whole streaming thing, and I understand people feel like 100 points is harsh. But the saying, it's like I can count on one hand or two hands how many times X, Y, or Z has happened. Guys, I've been around a long time. The streaming rule for big events has been implemented for a decent amount of time. I can't count on both hands how many times people have not paid attention to that rule, they have not followed that rule, and they have not been punished for it. At least properly punished for it. There has been a lot of times where people have just ignored the rule, they have not paid attention to it, and the scene is we're aiming for more professionalism than ever, right? We have Microsoft investing tons of money. We have Players Council, Admins Council. We've got big events. It's expected that maps are balanced, civs are balanced. Everything is, we're trying to be professional. Yo should have known better. And Yo didn't blame, by the way, Yo didn't say, like a lot of other people are, but Yo didn't say that it was undeserved. He was upset with himself. He was really frustrated with himself that I think he said he forgot. But I will say, just to be honest, when it comes to like players getting away or not paying attention to streaming rules has been a lot of the Chinese community because they don't stream on Twitch. They don't use YouTube. And so I think maybe they just always did it because they were like, no one's going to notice. Now, not Mr. Yo, but like, again, it's happened a lot. I had a freaking hidden cup. I had like hidden cup. We had someone from China stream back in the day. Not like I think it was like Hidden Cup 2 or Hidden Cup 1. But yeah. So from an admin's perspective, all this is factored into decisions, right? The history of things is factored into decisions. I think they should have had a rule. It would have been better to say ahead of time what the punishment was going to be, because it looks bad. He gets docked that, and it didn't say in the handbook specifically what the punishment is going to be. But you can't have, trust me, you can't have every single specific punishment listed in every single particular thing that could be considered bad in the handbook. You just can't. At the end of the day, the powers that be do have to make the decision that they think is best. And while it was harsh, I actually stand by the decision and understand it. Because if a punishment is not harsh, people are going to continue to just overlook rules. And that applies to a million different things. So, tough decision for the admins there. I think the admins make life way easier for themselves if they next time put in words like what that punishment is going to be ahead of time. Players were pinged. Players all should have known about this. Like, players were reminded. And they were allowed to stream with no delay for the majority of the thing, right? Like, it was just the last 48 hours they couldn't stream with a delay. That was it. And other people adapted accordingly. So, and yeah, that's my take. That's my take. Somehow over 20 minutes. I don't know what it'll be with the edit. So I'm going to shut up now. But please, give me your thoughts. I just felt it was nice to sit down and talk about this and give my thoughts on everything. Yeah, that's about it. Lots of Titans League 5 coming up. We'll also have the Red Bull Last Chance Qualifier uploaded to the Extras channel. We've got a lot of good things. So thank you, guys. And I'll see you soon.